Hey Sander, what's up?
Hi, Joey. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to
All
meet you
well
too.
here.
Nice to meet you
Hopefully,
too. We actually
well on
never
your
met in
side.
person.
We never did. We did meet from a distance, and I followed you online, and I've heard about your music
Hmm.
um, for already a long time ago. And
Hmm.
I kept it somewhere in the back of my head when you were, for me, one of the first artists who was really open about his burnout and actually did something good instead of only complaining. And from that point, just
Hmm.
try to help others. Actually, kind of the same as I'm doing, but on a different
Okay.
field. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I was always before this recording. I was telling you how I found you. I found you online, and I started following you. And I thought it was an interesting thing you did because to me, in the time when I was an artist, I had a few challenges along the way, which include agreements or whatever. And
Yes.
at that age, I just didn't really knew what was important in such those agreements and what I had to look out for or whatever.
Hmm.
And every time I went looking for a professional who was able to help me, I ended up at like a really general office where there were a few lawyers, but they really couldn't help me with music law.
Yeah.
So I saw the thing you've been doing, and I was just interested in, yeah, what you were doing. So I thought it might be really useful to a lot of other artists to hear and see what you do as a dance lawyer.
Yeah. Well, really briefly for how I got here, that's what makes it maybe more easy to
Mm-hmm.
understand what I exactly do.
Yeah.
So when I was a really young kid, one of my babysitters gave me a dance CD. It's called House Party. It's one of the famous kind of brands in dance music, which started around in the 90s, 80s,
Mm-hmm.
something like that, like 90s, beginning of the 90s, and that really caught me. So I've been always listening to dance music and making mixtapes and everything, and eventually I did have a dream to become a lawyer. So I was studying law and I was doing a lot of things in music. From that point on, I read my thesis about remixing and bootlegs
Mm-hmm.
and how that works in the DJ field. So I was doing some kind of small investigation, some enquetes about how the copyright law actually lives among the DJs. Like among some of my friends, I found some more famous DJs and I've read a lot of articles and I've written some articles about it as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, then I became a lawyer. So actually an attorney at law. There's a small difference in it in the Netherlands and I think basically everywhere. And I started my practice just doing corporate law, some intellectual property, so trademarks, copyright, and such. And then I found a way how I could combine my passion for the dance music, my knowledge because of my thesis, my personal interest,
Mm-hmm.
and being a lawyer. So that caught the eye of DJ Mag in the Netherlands. So
Mm-hmm.
when their first issue uh, came out,
Oh,
the publisher asked,
that's how I
"What?
found you.
What? Possible? Yeah."
Yeah, now I know.
They said, "What
Okay.
was missing?" I said, "It's the legal column, and I'll write it for you." So I started writing more and more for 3 for 12,
Mm-hmm.
for Dance Fair, and I started hosting my own panels for Dance Fair.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so from a background in dance music and DJing myself and being a lawyer, I could combine those two because what I found, just like you just said, there was knowledge about intellectual property.
Mm-hmm.
There was some knowledge about how the music business works. But in the Netherlands, those two combined was not available for artists in an easy to understand way. So, for example, by visuals,
Mm-hmm.
um, or by someone who can explain it in the terms and the words or the specifics for a certain scene,
Yeah.
um, whether that is pop music, whether that's hip hop music or dance music. So that was just not available. So you had to go to a really expensive lawyer, and the lawyer would give you some advice about how publishing works, and you still be like, I
Yeah.
don't know, man.
I don't understand. Yeah.
I
Exactly.
don't understand. But I mean, if I just paid somebody 300 euros an hour for some advice, then it must be right. But I still don't understand, and I'm afraid to ask how it actually works because that makes me pay even more.
Yep.
Um, I've worked at several law firms, and the lawyers there just said, "Well, those stupid artists, they just don't know what they're doing." So, but if they pay you to educate them, you should. It's not them not understanding. It's maybe the way you try to teach somebody something.
Mm-hmm.
And from that point of view, I thought I'm going to start my own business, do things differently,
Mm-hmm.
lower the rates, and invest more in a long-term relationship in which I'm happy if you understand it.
Mm-hmm.
And I get a lot of energy from it, being my own boss, being an entrepreneur, but also serving clients really well. And because they are eventually your ambassadors.
Mm-hmm.
And it gives me the feeling that I can contribute something to a creative industry that I really love. And I want to add something by DJing, but I certainly want to add something by being a lawyer and helping people out, restoring the balance, and letting creatives create, and letting the people who exploit the creative things also do it in a fair way so they can get a sustainable business case.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Well, it's a great
That's what I
story,
do.
actually. Yeah, I actually, yeah, like I said before, I think it's a really valuable thing. As in, we, I guess most of us never studied law or whatever as a DJ. So all those words that are in those books and stuff, I never got it as a DJ, as a person. So I think it's really valuable that you create content or yeah, give lessons to people to actually educate them on that field. Um, can you tell me a bit more? How long have you been doing this? Like the your own company?
I started my own company in October last year.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been a lawyer since, well, for about 6 years now.
Okay.
So I started off in The Hague, then did my, what they call like, it's kind of an internship, but you are a lawyer. You have to go to court. You're officially a lawyer. Then
Mm-hmm.
you have to do 3 years and 3 months, some kind of internship where still go to class, still have to make exams, but you can do court cases and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then I worked 2 years in Amsterdam and now founded my own company.
Cool. And looking back at the last, let's say, 8 months, 9 months,
Yeah.
um, all the clients that you've got, what was what were the main cases? Like, was there a thing that you kept seeing coming back, like a main struggle
Yeah,
that they
there's
had, or?
yeah, understanding the differences between copyright law and well, in the US it's like sound copyright law and copyright law, but the differences and how the publishing works, how the money streams go, that is still really a blur to a lot of people.
Can you tell a bit more about that? Like, how does that work, or?
I can. So in the music industry,
Mhm.
what is really important is the difference between the copyright law and the neighboring rights, at least in the Netherlands and most European countries.
Mhm.
So the copyright law, you're talking about the author of a song, for example, or a text. That is the musical composition or the lyrics. So actually what you write down on the paper or
Mhm.
on your computer, for example. If that's really shortly said creative enough, you get copyright. As a performing artist, so as the person who is singing the lyrics, who is performing the composition, you get a neighboring right. As a producer, you make the recording, so you take the financial risk of making a recording. You get a neighboring right as well. Um, so there can be three kind of rights if you're a DJ producer making your own music and playing it. And sometimes people forget about that.
Mhm.
So the copyright, that is typically something that's with Buma Stemra,
Mhm.
and that is typically something that goes with publishers. And on the other hand, you have the neighboring right, which is typically a SENA, so for the public performance of sound recordings and of the public performance of, for example, the way somebody is singing or the way somebody is playing a guitar.
Mhm.
That is neighboring right as well. That is SENA, and that is the right of the labels. Those two should be separated because it takes two different contracts to arrange those kind of things.
Mhm.
Why do you need contracts? That is just simply said in the Dutch law. If you want to transfer your right or if you want to give somebody an exclusive license, you need to do it in what we call an akte. An akte is basically a signed contract in order to prove that you have signed over your rights to somebody else and under which circumstance you did so.
Okay.
So that's basically what the whole creative industry is about
Yeah.
regarding why there is so much paper, because it's in our law.
And how does that work when because I see a trend. Well, I'm not sure it's a trend. I think it's just um, a result of the world we're living in. But I see a lot of artists releasing their own music right now. We have platforms like TuneCore, DistroKid, CD Baby, which are replacing their labels actually. How does that
Hmm.
work in that case? Because you don't have a label. Who arranges all those
Yeah.
agreements for you?
Well, still, you will have to sign an agreement with the distributing platform.
Mm-hmm.
But if you go back, so a lot of people just think about if you want to release music, you need a publisher and a label, which is not totally true. So the publishers, they actually start doing their business as shopping with your copyright. So they
Mm-hmm.
were trying to find outlets to distribute and to multiply your work. So they would go to a label and say, hey, listen, I got this great um, songwriter, and if you need a top line, his lyrics are definitely spot on. You need him. So they were trying to sell your copyright to a label, and the label would make a recording, right? So the
Mm-hmm.
sound recording part, they get the performing artist to perform the work. If you have a direct connection to a label, some could say you do not need a publisher anymore in order to do it. On the other hand, publishers usually have a really large network and they can make easier deals than you could make by yourself.
Yeah.
And the label part, that is about getting your record out.
Mm-hmm.
So that is about usually getting, like in the old school days, getting your CD in the store or
Mm-hmm.
getting your MP3 track at Beatport. And now there are all like smaller places where you can do that yourself. So your reach will not be as far usually as with a normal label. And in the contract are agreements about what the label can do and how they can exploit your music and how they should make video clips, etc. And now, well, you don't need that because you're doing it directly. So you basically cut out two kind of middlemen
Mm-hmm.
for getting your music if you do it yourself. So you
And
don't need the contracts.
and now you don't have to create, let's say, your own agreements, because let's say you work with a singer or with a songwriter, you don't have to
Yeah.
create your own agreements, or
Oh yes, yes, you
oh, you
still
do.
do,
Okay.
but those are just like the publishing and the label agreements are get cut out.
Mm-hmm.
If you get into the studio with somebody and start making music together, well, you both have some rights to what's eventually created, and also for the royalties that come in if you're bringing it out
Mm-hmm.
to a platform or such. So yeah, you still need to make agreements about that because otherwise, well, you cannot make an agreement after a track got released because then somebody will start asking for more or it's more difficult. So
Yeah.
at the
That's a
moment you walk out of the studio, just sign a paper or it says, well, you get 30% or you get 70
yeah.
or we both split it 50-50 or
That's what
yeah.
I wanted to ask, because I was wondering what, in your opinion, was the perfect timing to sign an agreement, because I actually had it a few times in my career that the agreement came after the release.
I know.
And
Uh, yeah, I know several artists. It makes your negotiation position very strong because if you do not really agree to an exclusive deal, or if it get exclusive released on a big label, or somebody's asking for a transfer of rights on a non-signed agreement, it makes your negotiation position very strong because
okay,
it already got released, you know.
yeah. So
But those
you
things
have all the leverage at that moment.
more, yeah, you have more leverage. I
Yeah.
mean, it doesn't really work if you will do everything to stop the release, but
Mm.
the track should not have came out with your well, exclusively came out without your consent.
True.
But those kind of things should be arranged on a forehand, and usually the labels or publishers, but mainly the labels will try to pressure you into signing something.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of excuses for that, like this is industry standard, or the track's already coming out, you're postponing everything, we get a delay because of you, you got to sign it. Those are all not really arguments to actually sign an agreement, because even if the percentage deal is all right, I mean, the business part of the agreement is all right,
Mm-hmm.
still in all the other terms or all the other clauses, there can be really negative agreements for you.
Yeah. I can imagine. Yeah, it's just to me, it's always been a weird industry. As in, um, I remember having conversations with my brother because he's in a different industry. As in, I always call it the normal business. You know, like you have the music business, the music business, and the normal business. And
Yeah.
he never understood the way it worked with agreements in the music industry because, like I said, sometimes it just happened after the track already came out, and to him that was just complete nonsense.
Yeah. I
And
know.
I just think it's still weird that things like that still happen in the music industry.
Yes, and that's why you need somebody who is basically on speed dial if something happens
Hmm.
and understands the working field, the importance of the contract, the financial importance of a contract, and you can just ask a quick question.
Yeah.
And you need to invest in your knowledge regarding those contracts. I
Hmm.
remember Richie Houghton's lawyer, Mark Quill from Canada, once said, if you want to become a great artist, you need to understand the intellectual property law because you need to know when you're not really knowing something. So when there's a lack of knowledge,
Hmm.
then you need to call a lawyer or somebody who does know and not just sign it with the knowledge that you do not know what you're signing
Yeah.
because that's a big risk. And it also um, it's just better. You can more understand a deal in a better way, and you can also negotiate yourself in a better way.
Yeah.
Uh, you're more aware of all the little things that are in the contract.
I agree. And how, can you tell us a bit more about how you work? Like, what's the way it works? Let's say I become a client of yours. How do we get from there?
Right. For me, there are a couple of things really important, and I took a lot of time writing them out for myself. So I created a business plan when I started my own company,
Hmm.
and I cannot remember any old-fashioned lawyer who recently just reviewed their own business. Like, what are we going to do? What are our values? What are our
Yeah.
services? What are we focusing on? And for me, that is my values are I want to make clear arrangements and clear agreements between us as an attorney at law or a lawyer and a client. That means being open about stuff. That means that I'm giving clear advice, and you should not be afraid if you're not understanding it, or just say, I don't get it yet, because that means that I'm not explaining well enough, not that you don't understand. I mean, more something like that.
Hmm.
I want to be transparent about what things cost, and I want passion on both sides. That's what I love about working together with entrepreneurs in the dance music industry. There is a lot of passion. People are really eager for
Yeah.
working. Um, and that is sometimes different in different music genres. But
Hmm.
so those are my values. What I do basically is what we are together. We'll meet, we'll talk by Skype or at my office or somewhere else. And we discuss my services. So my service can be me giving legal advice. I can help you with contracts, meaning I can scan a contract, I can make one for you, I can negotiate, and I can litigate. That is something, the litigation part is what makes the difference in the Netherlands
Hmm.
and in several other countries between an advocaat, so an attorney at law, and a jurist, so basically a lawyer. A lawyer is basically anybody who does something with law or graduated in law, and an attorney at law is somebody who is admitted to the bar, de Nederlandse Orde van Advocaten.
Hmm.
That is so the official title, so it's protected title, just as a doctor, for
Hmm.
example, or a surgeon. So not everybody who read a book about medicine can call himself a surgeon, which is great. Same with lawyers
Hmm.
and attorneys. From that point on, when we chose what kind of services you want to have.
Hmm.
We can work either on a fixed fee, we can work either on my hourly tariff, or we can work on a contract. The contract and the fixed fee part is what makes me kind of different from the rest. So the contract is if you have, for example, 5 title contracts, we can make a deal about it that you can pay a monthly fee
Hmm.
and you can ask me all the questions you want, or I can do all the contract work for you want. I have for example, some telephone contracts with people, and for a fixed fee per month, they can just call me and ask me questions.
A smart one.
Yeah, so that's what I can do, basically on the fields of intellectual property, media rights. So that's kind of privacy, but also if you're filmed with a hidden camera or such, and contracts in all kind of things.
Hmm.
Um, So when we took all those steps, and okay, these are my values. Let's communicate in this way. Let's treat each other in this way. We choose what services and the way you want to work. Some people like to have an hourly tariff, so they know that it costs what it costs. Some people want a fixed fee because then they can know that that's what they pay for a certain contract.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to have a contract for a fixed fee amount of month where you can do anything or ask me any questions, some people like that too.
Cool. Yeah, it's a smart one. Definitely. I totally like what you're doing already. What kind of clients, what kind of people come to you? Like what's the because there's a lot of different skills in being an artist. You have the people who are getting started, people who already released some music, and people who already make a living out of it. So what kind of people do you recommend to use your service?
Oh, that's very simple. Oh, yeah, because I'm working for international touring top artists with a long history in the music industry, and also for artists who maybe released their first track or want to release their first track. As I said, I want to work with eager people. I want to work with smart people, and more, I want to work with passionate people. Because in the beginning of your career, I'm also looking to invest in a long-term relationship. I might not charge my full tariff, or I might cut you a nice deal. I mean, I'm really open into barter deals, so I need to do my marketing. I like to do my marketing my own because I think at this moment, well, you found me. I'm doing it in kind of a right way, but I can always use help. So if an artist has a big reach on, for example, Instagram, we can make a partly deal for that with maybe some less financial input from the other side and some more marketing input. So everything is possible with either starting artists to starting labels to people who start doing their management to websites to basically anything.
Okay.
As long as it goes back to intellectual property,
Yeah.
Media law, or contracts.
Yeah, and that's kind of logical, because in the beginning of your career, you might sign the worst deal of your life, which makes you leave with a company for 5 years or whatever. So it might be useful to, and especially you don't know anything about deals in the beginning, so
Yeah.
could be the right one.
If I always ask the client, if it's a starting artist, is this your big breakthrough? Do you believe that this is your breakthrough?
Mm-hmm.
And if they say yes, that is a whole different ballgame than if they say, no, I just want to get my record out. This is my first record. I need to create some trail around the internet. People need to find me. It's a nice track, but it's not my breakthrough.
Mm-hmm.
I will give them a different advice. I will charge a different rate for it. I will not deep dive into the contract. I will spot, of course, if there's some dangers in it. But the way of treating such a situation is different than somebody's, like when Martin Garrix released Animals, everybody knew that was huge. If a client with a track like that comes to me and said, this is my breakthrough,
Mm-hmm.
then I will say, I would invest some more in the legal part right now. And if somebody just says, well, no, I don't know, I like it. It's not my breakthrough, but I can get it out. At a smaller label, it's not fair to charge the same rate for a small online SoundCloud label and, for example, Spinning Records regarding the contract scanner or something.
And how do you see that? Because I don't really think it's, sometimes you can kind of predict it when a track becomes a big hit, such as Animals. But sometimes tracks just become hits in some kind of way.
They do, but they also require a lot then that you put into it.
Yeah, true. Yeah, that's
so if an artist is not going to put the effort into it and invest in the track, then it doesn't make any sense to invest a lot of money in the legal part. I mean, you should invest in the knowledge that's behind it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I said I'm happy if you understand what I'm telling you, and then the money you spend on legal does not only go to the way of signing a contract, yes or no, but understanding what is in front of you.
What you're actually signing, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And that can be more important if you think I'm going to run this track everywhere. Yeah.
Okay. And to people who might not be able to afford you, do you know any platforms which are free or whatever where people can check their
Definitely.
agreement or whatever?
Yeah, well, check your agreement. There are a lot of checklists online,
Mm-hmm.
but I find them not sufficient or not wholly telling everything about it.
Mm-hmm.
So what I usually do, I write my reaction to it, and there are some nice outlets where you can find information about the music industry. One of them is LinkedIn and lynda.com. Lynda is with a Ypsilon.
Really? They
Why?
know it. Do they have a lot?
Yeah, you can try with LinkedIn Learning. You can try a month for free.
Mm-hmm.
There is a course called Becoming a Music Business Entrepreneur. It takes 21 hours, and you get a lot of videos and courses about how the music industry works, also by U.S. lawyers. Um, you can just binge watch it. You can copy the transcripts. Not sure if I'm supposed to say that, but copy the transcripts and read them because that is a gold mine of information. Next to that, there are a couple of books, yes, old school reading, about the music industry.
Mm-hmm.
And I try to post a lot of stuff online that I find useful. Um,
Yeah, I've read a few of
and
them. Your blogs.
yeah, the blogs, they're basically on the notice, like the small stories on Facebook and on LinkedIn. They're on my website, and I'm very active on Facebook and more and more and more and more on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
Just small things you should think about, and you store them somewhere in the back of your head, and you know that, oh yeah, when somebody sees something about it, or you read something in a contract, or somebody talking about it, like, I read something about this, and that's how I try to help. I like to do it. Yes, it's a part of marketing, but it's also the knowledge that I know that is not out there in this form.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah. Um, One question on a completely, well, not completely different, but if you were able to change one thing in the music industry, so not just music law in general, but the whole music industry, what would you change?
Ah, good question. Difficult one. Um, I think changing the hunt for money
Mm-hmm.
into finding the passion again. And unfortunately, that is what Avicii confirmed.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that I would really change at this moment. Because being in the music industry for quite some while now and talking to a lot of people at, for example, IMS, Ibiza, Amsterdam Dance Event, some people are just in it for the money. And um, I don't know, it changes music. I
Yeah,
mean,
it is. It
music
does.
industry can be a business, and if you make music solely for business, it will sound like shit, and you'll wear out every artist, and you will have a really short-term vision and strategy on getting the money out of it, and eventually that will kill music, or it creates a new underground. That is what I love. That is the part where the passion still thrives,
Mm-hmm.
and you need an environment where that creativity can thrive. And I'm very proud of Netherlands and especially Amsterdam that we create an environment where we have 24-hour licenses,
Yeah.
where we are quite liberal on how we look at the nightlife or the dance music industry, because that's where it happens. Not if artists are pushed to do a 1 hour set and play all their own music because that's where the money is. But if you can let them play 6 or 8 hour sets and where you can give artists space to create, to tell stories, and to find housing, to find studios, and to be what they want to be, I think that is a major part of that change from money to passion.
Great one. One last thing I want to ask you is what learning moment what's the most valuable thing you've learned in life? So not your career, life.
Oh, that's a deep one.
Yeah, I like to go deep.
Um, I think there are two things. The most important part is trusting yourself and yourself fully. So even the dark sides, but also the bright sides. Trust on the bright sides when you're in a dark place, and keep on going. Keep on going and be passionate about what you do. And that's a really big cliche, but I found it very true when I started my own company. And search for that. So, yeah, go some deep diving into yourself, because if you're just putting your head in the sand, you'll never know. And for me, that felt for being half a person for a really long time, because I'm a rational guy. I like order. I like I dislike chaos, and eventually that made me, just rational. So don't cut out the emotional part. One of my friends recently said really nice. He said, "Well, I can create from the heart and I can sell from the head, and those two should be connected.
Yeah.
Those two should be able to communicate, and don't mix them up, but create what's in your heart and make business what's in your head."
Beautifully said. I totally agree with it. Great, man.
What's yours?
The best learning moment. I actually think that it kind of refers to yours, but self-awareness, like knowing what you're all about, knowing what you like in life. That's the whole thing that I went through with quitting DJing and searching for something new in life. I was just doing something that wasn't me, and I just kept doing it way too long for the rest of the world, and not for myself, which eventually led me to burn out and to be unhappy at all places, because I was unhappy in everything in my life, not just my job, everything.
Right.
So the fact that I took the time, like you said, to develop myself and to find what was important to me and what I liked and how I would like to see the world and how would I like to spend my own life, that's where my life took a turning point.
Yeah.
And that's where everything's changed. That's where everything brought me to the place where I'm right now, which is a more happy place and an environment which is all created by myself, actually. All the things I do right now, all the things I own, all the things I have are things that have been my choice and not someone else's. So I totally agree with the self-developing part, and I think a lot of people lack on that part of their life.
It's scary.
It's really scary. I think a lot of people are living someone else's life.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think maybe one thing that I would like to add on that is when you do something, when you create or when you start something and you look at others, the fact that somebody else has more experience does not mean that somebody else is better. It just means somebody else has more experience. And for the rest, just trusting yourself, because you might be way better, but with less experience. You will gain the experience if you start doing things.
Yeah.
So just do stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the whole thing. That's the whole game.
Yeah.
Try a lot of stuff, see what works, cut out all the things that doesn't work for you, and keep doing the things that you like to do and which work.
Yeah.
And combine that with the self-awareness part, and I think you're in a really successful part of life.
Guess so. Yeah.
Great. I want to thank you for your time, and if someone wants to follow you, or you're on Instagram or Facebook, you mentioned, or
Yeah, mainly Instagram and Facebook. Of course, my website. You can either find me at www.danceadvocaat, it's in Dutch, .nl, or Petit Legal. But my main outlets are Instagram and Facebook.
cool.
You can just send me a direct message or anything.
Cool. Do you also accept international clients, or is it just Dutch?
Definitely, no. I do accept international clients, especially if it's regarding Dutch law. So I cannot advise officially for example, German or UK law. But what I can do is give you a legal review of the contract, meaning I'm looking at the contract, but I have to make a disclaimer that I'm not reviewing it to UK law or German, French law. I'm just reviewing it to what I know about the music industry and if I can see if the clauses are reasonable or not. And most legislations are really close to each other, but
It's not
clients from other countries who are dealing with Dutch booking agencies, Dutch artists, Dutch management, labels, publishing, yeah, I can help you out, of course.
Cool. Well, hopefully some people come over to your website and Instagram stuff.
Yeah, that'd be really cool.
Thanks, man.
Thank you as well.
Yeah.
Bye. Have a good day.
Hey guys, what's up? First of all, thanks for watching my content. Thanks for listening to the podcast and watching the videos. It means a world to me. You guys have been talking me about coaching and personal coaching for a while now, but I just thought it was a good idea to show you some experiences of my clients to see what a personal coach and a mentor could do for you and your career. So here are a few user stories, client stories from my side. Hopefully it's useful to you.
So in the first place, why did I take on a coach? I felt like I was very confused with the music industry, with the different players, and sort of I didn't really know who to speak to, who to send music to in order to get heard, and in general to get exposure, to get the word out for my artist profile. And I felt like speaking with you really helped me understand which strings I have to pull in the music industry in order to really get the word out there and to make my music project successful. Working with you, I really liked the personal connection that you have with people, that you're not just someone typing an email or just a name, but I really liked that I got to meet you in person in your office, and we got to sit down and really, speak about the things and speak about the questions that I had. And there's also something why I would recommend you to work with other people, because working with you, I felt like I can really ask specific questions, so I can come up in my mind, I can kind of come up with a strategy that works for me, and then sort of with your help fill the gaps where I don't know for sure what needs to be done, and what exactly I should do and the next steps that I need to take. So this is something that really helped me a lot to have the personal touch with you, to really work with you directly together, sit down with you and get your opinion, and also knowing that you've been there, that you've done all of this, that you've been successful, and just really knowing that you know what's up and you know what's going on in the music industry. So thanks a lot, Joey, for the big help that you gave me, and I really appreciate your dedication that you're giving towards smaller artists that are up and coming, and really trying to help the sort of the unknown names to get out there and to get big. So keep going, good job, and thanks a lot, Joey.